the LaxFactor podcast. What is up, college lacrosse fans? You're watching episode number 220, I believe, of the LaxFactor Lacrosse podcast, and today we are going to continue on with the stupid early college lacrosse 2023 preseason All-Americans. And yes, stupid early is the operative word or words there because it is way too early to be calling this, but I'm going to do it nonetheless. Today, we are going to talk about the midfielders first, headlined by none other than Sam Handley of Penn fame. Before I get into it, though, as always, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the crap out of this episode with all of your friends, no matter where you're watching it. And you can always go to LaxFactor.com. We put every episode up there, and then we also have t-shirts and swag that you can buy to help support the channel and everything like that beyond that. But let's not waste any more time, and let's get into this. I want to talk about Sam Handley first. He's a lock. Sam Handley, Tewaaraton finalist. One of the best players in the country, hands down. I think I put Handley for sure in my top 3 players in the country overall. And there's no way that you can kind of talk about returning midfielders without talking about Sam Handley, and not just talking about him first among all things. First team All-American in both polls, Ivy League Player of the Year ahead of Brandow, who I actually think is the best overall player coming back. First team All-Ivy, I believe that was unanimous since he's been a freshman. He's been a unanimous first team All-Ivy pick. D1 Midfielder of the Year, like I said, Tewaaraton finalist. The only other returning player that was, besides Schellenberger, that was among the top 5 Tewaaraton finalists. You have the Tewaaraton watch list that goes on all year that includes a bunch of players, but by the end of the year, they trim it down to 5. They have the Tewaaraton finalist list, and Handley was among one of them. And he's one of my favorites to win the Tewaaraton. I don't think he will, but he is a media darling as much as he is a filthy, disgusting midfielder as well. So I think that could help him a little bit, but definitely going to be a Tewaaraton finalist again as long as he's healthy and Penn doesn't completely shit the bed, which I do not see happening in any way. His production while at Penn is the thing of legends. He was a first-team All-American as a freshman. He was the D1 Rookie of the Year and first-team All-Ivy, again, unanimous selection. As a first-year player running midfield, he put up 35 goals, 26 assists for 61 points off 90 shots. That's 38% shooting. His sophomore year was shot to shit by a ruptured spleen in the first game of the year against Maryland. Despite the injury, he put up 3 goals and 2 helpers in that game. He missed the next 4 games, and then COVID wiped out the remainder of that season, so that season was a wash anyway. And then for the Ivy, the 2021 season was a wash as well, which means that Handley, after this season, should he transfer, I believe has 1 more year of eligibility left. So that would be something for him. And something to consider here. Do we see another Ivy League to Georgetown transfer or something like that? And I have no idea what his plans are. I'm just popping off based on what I think could happen. Now, his 2022 production, 36 goals, 37 assists, 73 points off 131 shots, and 27.5% shooting. So dealt a lot differently, being the man for Penn. He was the man as a freshman for Penn, but he wasn't the man. He wasn't the true alpha of that team. Not yet, anyway. So he got all the eyeballs and all the attention last year. Definitely brought his shooting percentage down from his last full season where he shot the rock at a 38% clip. So he'll want to try to improve that a little bit in 2023. And as you see very often, guys that are dealing with their first year of being the true alpha and getting the bulk of the looks, their shooting percentages tend to drop, and then that second season of dealing with that type of pressure, they tend to kind of come back up again, a la like a Pat Spencer or something like that. 5 man-up goals, 20 GBs to go with 52 turnovers. That's a high number compared to his 73 points. 52 turnovers. Now, the only kicker here is he may not really have had 52 turnovers. In Sidearm Sports, the company that manages a lot of these teams' websites, ends up having a duplicate stat thing. So his turnovers were way higher than the other 2 guys I'm going to talk about. So I'm not sure that stat in itself is accurate, but we'll go with it for now. But he goes fast and he takes lots of chances. So he's that guy where it's like cut down on your exposure time when you're, stupid and you're driving with alcohol in your system. He goes fast, he takes lots of chances, but he gets the job done more often than not. And do not drink and drive, kids. It's terrible. 18th in the country. Oh, wait, now we go Oh, yeah, no, I'm in it. 18th in the country with 2.25 assists per game, one of the only two midfielders in the top 20. Note the other guy, Ryan Bell, a freshman out of Providence, who I'm not going to discuss anymore today, but who I was ignorant on existing last season. I'm going to have to look more into this Ryan Bell because he put up big stats as a freshman. But yeah, Handley, the only other midfielder that I noticed as I was kind of looking through the top 20 in points that was on that, or top 20 in assists per game. He was the only one that was on that list. Handley's attributes as a player: high risk, high reward, bulldozer of a midfielder with the hands and feet of an angel. He stands 6'5" and tips the scales at around 230, but the dude is a damn monster of a man overall, but he definitely has a level of finesse to his game that you don't normally see in dudes that just bulldoze people. As scary of a downhill dodger as most defenders will ever see in their careers. Even if you defend him well, he'll just shoot through you, over you, around you. But what I like about him and about another guy that I'm going to talk about is I love that shot where the defender's in good position, he's on the run, even kind of defender's on his hands, but he's strong enough to still get that shot off. Very, very, it's just hard to guard. Very hard to guard overall, because if he's not trying to dodge you, shoot around you, he's just bullying you down the alley, from the wing and in. The guy's just a beast. Has solid feet for a guy his size overall, though. Certainly not fast, but he's deceptively quick, and he will cut and then cut back on you as necessary, all the while being able to kind of cut fairly effectively while also just being able to lean you into submission overall. But his real strength is playing bully ball with a finesse that hasn't been seen since the days of Pat Spencer. He's not the dodger that Pat Spencer is, and I mean in style, because Spencer attacked primarily from wings, from X, whereas Handley's attacking primarily from out top wings. He's running dodges from the corner to corner, corner down through the middle. But still reminiscent of that, just in the terms, in the way that he's able to use his body to get his hands free and get shots off. Even better, he can burn you by scoring a goal or dropping a dime into a teammate's cross. The kid's a true 50-50 threat overall, as evidenced by his stats last year. Taking away his ability to score is only going to result in him dropping a bunch of assists on you. He has incredible vision, dodges with his head up at all times. That's important. And it's very difficult to keep a stick on him because the defenders are constantly having to kind of, cross-check, lean on him. So it's hard to throw checks and things of that sort, because all the while you're just trying to stay in position and stop him from mowing you over, which means not a lot of checks thrown, and his hands are going to be free. If a defender, the only hope a defender has is push up until the point where he's about to shoot, and then you just kind of try to get the lift on his hands. But he's so big, so tall, he is just a very difficult guy to guard overall. You rarely have the opportunity to throw that check because, like I said, you're focusing your efforts on not letting him run your little ass over, because everyone is little compared to him. Turnovers. As I said, if that statistic is accurate, and he really did have 52 turnovers, you know what we can do here? We can just jump into Inside Lacrosse real quick. I'm just going to go to here. We're going to go to teams. I'm going to search Penn, because they're going to have more. They've had more accurate stats actually here overall, because that one bothers me. I want to see if he really did have that many turnovers. Let's see here. Oh, of course they're not giving. Oh yeah, 52 turnovers. So that statistic is legit apparently. So with that's a high number here. As I used to say about Asher Nolting, he had, I believe, 1 or 2 70+ turnover seasons. Wipe those turnovers out, and his point production is going to go through the roof. And it's just one of those situations where the coaches and his teammates will be delighted if he could just shave even 7 of those turnovers off. Come in under, at 45 or under. I think that would be a big accomplishment. Overall, he's a consistent scorer, though. He's not one of those guys that kind of goes away and, doesn't perform every game. He performs game in and game out. He put up at least 3 points in all but one of the 16 games he played in 2022. He had 3 goals and 8 helpers in a 21-20 loss to Princeton. That game started a monster stretch for him, a 6-game stretch where he scored 11 points against Princeton, 6 against Cornell, 5 against Yale, 3 against Brown, 5 against Harvard, and then 5 against Dartmouth. Despite that, Penn was still only 3-3 during that stretch because the Ivy League was an absolute just savage conference in 2022. He had a hard time dealing with the added attention, as I said, that comes with being one of the best players in the country. All eyeballs on you. All efforts by the defense are trying to stop you. So he goes from that 38% shooting percentage as a rookie down to 27.5 in 2022. Note there was also a big lull, almost a 2-year lull in between that of him being able to actually play organized lacrosse at that level. I expect that shooting percentage to improve, as I said. And like I said, if he can keep those turnovers below 45, that is going to be huge for him. In the end, this kid is easily the top returning midfielder, at least in my opinion, but I think that's almost everybody's opinion. And I think he's one of the top 3 guys returning in all of Division I for their 2023 campaigns. If he's healthy, he'll be a first-team All-American again. That is a lock. He'll also be the midfielder of the year again, despite having some solid competition, and will almost certainly be one of the favorites to win the Tuarton. Now, the next guy that I would like to talk to you all about is Graham Bundy Jr. out of Georgetown. As was all these other guys, I believe he's got 1 year remaining after 2023. I'm not sure, but we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure it's okay to call a 6'1", 190-pound midfielder a jitterbug of a midfielder with a cannon and flair for the dramatic, but that's what I think of when I pontificate on Graham Bundy Jr., and his name also makes me want to say cool words like pontificate. He's got a perfect frame for a midfielder. He's strong, quick, fast, and has an absolute cannon on him, but he's sneaky quick side to side and has the ability to carve up a defense as a dodger. And he's relentless. When he decides he wants to go to the goal, he's going to dodge, redodge, do whatever, and within that Georgetown system, he has a metric shit ton of freedom to do what he needs to do. His 2022 production, 45 goals, 25 helpers for 70 points off just 28.7% shooting. You're going to see all 3 guys I talk about aren't the most efficient of shooters, but they're midfielders. So we're dealing with a lot more alley dodges and a lot more shooting on the run from distance. So that's a natural thing you see with midfielders. 6 man-up goals, 40 GBs, 4 caused turnovers, and 38 turnovers. Like Handley, high risk, high reward overall, but less risk in terms of the actual turnovers that he commits. Because he takes better care of the ball overall than Handley. Although I'm not 100% sure on his stats either, because like I said, I don't know what sidearm sports stats are, how accurate they are for that 2022 season. Like Handley, he only had 2 games out of 17 below 3 points. He had 2 points in both of those games that he was below 3, but he had at least 3 points in every other game they played. He had 6 goals and a dish against Providence, 2 and 4 against Villanova. He only had 3 goals in the NCAA tournament loss to Delaware, took 9 shots, buried 3 of them, but it wasn't enough as the Hoyas got bounced by a goal in that NCAA tournament game. Now, his attributes as a player, as twitchy of a dodger as you will see with a guy with his size overall. Goes to the rack with the strength of a midfielder that is well over 6 foot, but he dodges laterally as if he was only 5'7". He's an insane tough matchup for a defender. And just like all 3 guys that I'm going to mention here today, quick release. Once he gets his hands free, he is going to let that shit rip, and he does it with an efficiency that you'll not see. He looks more like an attackman overall, I think, as a dodger than any of these other guys do. Just a filthy midfielder. That release, like I said, is quick, but he also brings fire. I mean, the guy can put smoke past a goalkeeper. Very accurate overall. If you leave his hands free inside of 12 yards, he's going to let it rip. These are facts. He doesn't give a crap. He's like the honey badger. He's just going to keep coming at you, and if you give him a chance to score a goal, he's going to try to score a goal. The dude is greedy as all hell. Can finish in any situation, dodging with the ball. He'll dive and bury one backhanded if the occasion calls for it. He'll step down and rip one past your goalie's ear, or he'll play off ball and can lace a quick stick from the crease. The guy, once again, like the guys that put up the most production, they never stop moving, and they try to be effective in all facets of the game, both carrying, just step down shooting, and then, even more importantly, cutting and being in the mix in the crease off ball. And with that comes the ability also to help his homeboys out, because he's going to draw a lot of attention. He's going to draw a lot of double teams. And as part of that the 25 assists that he put up, those were easy gets. And that's because most of those dishes, he drew a slide and there was somebody that was wide open, and with his head up, he found him. Smoked the ever-living shit out of my man, draw a slide. I'm trying to read my quote here, and it sounds stupid, so I'm not going to finish it. I actually wrote, smoke the ever-living shit out of my man, draw a slide, and throw a quick dish to my pal. Oh, I'm trying to speak as if I'm him. That's what I was doing. I was trying to be tricky, and it sounded stupid. So it's just one of those things guys like him can do, though. They're going to draw slides all the time, automatic double team, especially this upcoming season. He will be an automatic double team. He has the ball. They're going to have that slide ready, and that slide is almost always going to go, and that's just going to open up his assist numbers here a little bit more in 2023. Overall, Bundy Jr., one of my favorite midfielders. I like how the dude plays. I like his swag. He celebrates. Some of his celebrations, as I was watching his highlight cut, almost remind me of like Kyle Marr-esque celebrations when he played at Hopkins. I think it was Kyle Marr, right? Now I'm drawing blanks here. My brain doesn't work as well since COVID times. So, yeah, one of my favorite midfielders to watch, a must-watch for you guys. If you can find a Georgetown game that's on TV or that's streaming that doesn't cost you $10, probably tune in because he'll surprise the hell out of you. Now, the next guy that I want to talk about, and once again, not as well known if you're a casual fan here, and I'll be honest. I mean, I knew of Matt Campbell. I was not aware that Matt Campbell was going to be, one of the guys, like before I kind of got into it and started reviewing all the midfielders, I wasn't aware, even myself, I was going to pick Matt Campbell to be one of the first team All-Americans. But overall here, no name recognition, poor, like I said, to the casual fans. But, that's partly the Big East problem because they don't have a unified method of streaming all of the conference's games overall. But with that said, he is, in fact, the truth. 6'1", 195 pounds. He has a solid frame, and he's kind of what I'd consider a striding midfielder, at least the way he looks as he's running around there. He's got an odd way of carrying his stick, kind of, once again, dodges a little bit more like an attackman. Reminds me of Josh Zawada, but with a little bit more size to him. And like I said, as you watch him play, each dodge looks like it's 2 steps. Each step that he takes while dodging, it looks like he's taking 2 steps. He plays with the grace of an antelope, but he's a mutant antelope that decided he was tired of being prey and decided he was going to eat the fucking lion. And that's what I like about him. From a distance, he looks long and lean, almost lanky, a la Josh Zawada, even the way he carries his stick. But that's more of a product of how he carries himself and his body than his actual body, because he definitely is much more powerful, got a very powerful legs, as you kind of see some of the pictures here that are rolling. You can see that he's not nearly as small as he looks when I'm watching the highlight cuts overall. And I wonder how many of his freshman year highlights were mixed in there, and that might be why. His 2022 production, 45 goals, 22 helpers, 67 points off 159 shots. Again, 28.3% shooting. All three of these guys are just below 30% shooting. I expect that is partly a product of them just, stepping into a new season where now all eyes are on them. Everyone's trying to stop them. You don't necessarily handle that right. You end up having a bunch more contested shots than what you're used to. His shooting percentage has never been high, whereas both of the previous players have had a little bit more success with their shooting percentages early in the year. But still, clean that up just a little bit, get just to that 30% mark, and you put in, 5-6 more goals on the season, if not a few more than that, and everybody's happy. 6 man-up goals, 22 GBs, 5 cost turnovers, and 22 turnovers. Now, attributes as a player: excellent shooter. He can lay shit as a spot shooter or a step-down shooter, but he excels while shooting on the move. I think out of all the players here, he moves the most. Like, Handley's going to shoot well on the run. Bundy shoots well on the run. This guy excels at shooting on the run, and you can tell that goalies, the way he releases his shot and the way he carries his stick is kind of always behind him. As he's winding up, he's got a wind up that kind of tucks that stick behind his ear, behind his body. So you can tell, just watching his highlight cuts even, that goalies have a hard time tracking his shot. By the looks of it, he's never seen a shot that he doesn't like. So if, once again, like these other guys, you leave his hands free, he is not going to hesitate to let that rip. Can get shots off at odd angles, but very good at maintaining his body position as he's dodging to the cage, as he's dipping underneath guys, gets his hips turned and shots rifled off very quickly. And like Handley, even if his defender is in good position, he's another one where he'll just kind of run right at that guy, back that guy down, kind of contact body to body, and just shoot that shot over him or around him. I'm going to admit, though, like I said, I'm going to admit it again. Of the 3 guys I talked about today, I know the least about Campbell overall, but I'm kind of looking forward to catching up and seeing what he does here in the 2023 season. Now, there's a bunch of other guys that I should talk about. And I think this list, far more than my attack list, I think this list here, at least that Campbell spot, a lot of guys are going to chirp and say that there's some other dudes that could easily take that third spot. I think Handley and Bundy Jr. are locks for the first team All-American spots in 2023. Campbell's the guy that I think will probably get it, just because I think his production is going to continue to improve in 2023. But you have to mention these other guys, so I'm going to talk about these other guys as well. First one being Kyle Long of Maryland, 17 goals, 25 assists, 42 points. Now, he may be the most likely, I think, to supplant one of the guys I've already mentioned. More than likely, it would be Campbell, partly because he's playing for Maryland. He's now Maryland's top returning offensive threat, at least as a Dodger. I think I might have even heard Maliver's out for the year again, so that's going to make him legitimately just their top returning scoring threat overall. So I like Kyle Long to probably, he's the guy that it's like, man, if there was 4 spots, he'd be in there. And depending on the production overall and what both of these teams do, I think that Long is the first guy that I would say, okay, he could probably pop Campbell off that list, and Long is now a first-team All-American. Another guy, Thomas McConvey, Virginia/Vermont transfer, 60 goals, 14 assists, and 74 points for Vermont last year. He's now going to be playing for Virginia, so he's got a very good shot once again of kind of making it into this list. But like I said, I dare say Long. As I wrote this up, I liked what I saw in Campbell a little bit more than what I liked out of Long. But then again, Campbell is one of his team's big cats, whereas Long had 4 offensive threats ahead of him. So it may be one of those deals where, you can tell that I'm kind of questioning myself already with the Long pick. Now, I think McConvey is going to be a second-team All-American, but he's right below those other 3. And then Princeton. Princeton is loaded at midfield. Sam English and Jake Stevens, I think, are both going to have chances here. English being more of the scoring threat. 30 goals, 18 assists, whereas Stevens, 22 goals, 2 assists. He's more of a old school midfielder, get up and down the field, pick up ground balls. He's that guy. He's more of a, one of the most complete kind of two-way midfielders that we're going to see in 2023 is Jake Stevens. So Princeton has a couple of great ones as well. I think those are the 3 or the 4 that you kind of have to mention, like, all right, I like these 3 to grab these spots, at least the way things look right now. But Long, McConvey, English, and Stevens, I think, are all sitting right there chomping at the bit to try to grab one of those 3 All-American spots at the midfield. And that's it. Midfield, not as much to talk about overall, just because, I'm a big attack gooner, and you pay a lot of attention to the dudes who put up shit tons of points, and the midfielders just don't all the time, so they don't get as much shine. But the reality here is that all 3 of these midfielders I've talked about, between Campbell, Bundy Jr., and between Handley, they're pretty much attackmen playing midfield in terms of their production and their capabilities, and that's what makes them so good as midfielders overall. And then, like I said, Kyle Long probably is the one that, if we're going to say anyone's going to get yanked off that list and someone else is going to bump up, Kyle Long from Maryland is probably the guy I think that would do that. So that is it. I'm going to come back next week and we're going to talk about defenders. I've got a list of 5 defenders that I want to talk about. After that, I've got 3 face-off specialists I want to talk about. I've got 2 LSMs I want to talk about, and 2 short stick D-mids that I want to talk about, and then we'll get into the goalies last. So that is all for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. You can go to LaxFactor.com, support us there, share the crap out of this with all your friends, and then, like I said, you can get T-shirts at our website. And the T-shirts themselves, they're not all LaxFactor podcast branded. This is custom designed here. I paid somebody on Fiverr actually to whip this up. We had done something like it for somebody else many years ago for a summer league shirt or whatnot. But yeah, you can go to LaxFactor.com, and I actually designed this one myself, and you can support us that way. That'll help the channel out. But all right, I'm going to shut the hell up here. I will be back next week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and Hoost is out. The LaxFactor Podcast.